Welcome to Theme 1 in our sports marketing class. This is going to be fairly brief, but basically the purpose of this video will be to set the stage for what you can expect to come in the next few weeks. So I'll talk briefly about what sports marketing is and how sports marketing is unique or not unique from other types of marketing in other sectors. Why is there a special focus on this area? Because a course in sports marketing is not particularly unique, but we don't see it a whole lot in other areas. And what are some of the unique topics that we might expect to see or cover in this course? And that's what I'm going to lay out for you today. So why is there a course called sports marketing within our little faculty of business and within the specialization of marketing? There really isn't a perfect answer to that. I guess I would say, why not? This is actually a course that is requested quite frequently by students. I have offered it in this format before, meaning a regular class with students. Obviously, pre-COVID, we were in person. But most recently, and certainly over the past probably 5 or 6 years, I've more often offered this course as directed studies. And this is largely in response to people who have a very significant interest in sports and looking to pursue the marketing specialization and needed another course or two in marketing. And so this was just a really good fit. But then last year, as I mentioned to you at the first day of class, I had 6 students who all wanted to do directed studies in sports marketing. And so we did a collective directed studies, which is a bit of an oxymoron, but and it was such a huge success. The students were first of all, they were fantastic students and super engaged and really did a terrific job. They just did a really terrific job on both the core content, which is sort of what we're starting to talk about today, but also in the special topics, which we're going to be covering in this class after the spring break. There are actually other broad sectors that have specialized courses in marketing, some that we've even offered here at UPEI, but it's not uncommon for example, food or agriculture to have marketing courses that are targeted at that particular sector, and we've offered those in the Faculty of Business before. For the most part, that's been in our MBA program. I do believe we've offered them on occasion at the undergraduate level as well. I have not taught those classes. There's also, specialized marketing courses for things like retail, for sort of business to business type marketing activities. And so it's not completely unusual that we hone in on marketing with respect to a specific sector or cluster of types of groups. The other answer is that sports is huge. I think a lot of students, when they sign up for this course, they think we're going to be talking a lot about, hockey, baseball, football, and basketball, which are the big 4 sports here in North America. But actually, once we start digging into this, I think you're going to see that the umbrella that we encapsulate in this course called sports marketing extends way, way, way beyond those big 4 sports. We're going to talk about minor sports, quasi-professional sports. We're going to talk about sports technology. We're going to talk about gambling. We're going to talk about equipment and clothing. We're going to talk about a whole array of topics that goes beyond just being the marketing coordinator for the Toronto Maple Leafs, for example. But we'll talk about that stuff too. And then the other reason we offer a course in sports marketing is because it's a topic that's of interest to a lot of students. We get this request quite frequently. The dean has received that request from a number of students, and in particular the 6 students that took it from me last year, I know touched base with Tarek and just reiterated how much they loved the course. And so actually Tarek approached me, um, I guess late summer or early fall last year and said, would you consider doing this as an actual course that can be counted towards the marketing specialization? And I had such a good experience last year that I said yes, I would. So that's why. And we're again, hopefully over the next couple of weeks, as you sort of as we discuss the various aspects of sports marketing, you'll see that it's very likely much, much, much broader than what you thought it was going to be when you signed up for this course. So how is sports marketing unique from other types of marketing and other types of sectors? And the easy answer is that it really isn't. I mean, we're still fundamentally talking about the same core aspects of marketing, those 4 Ps that hopefully by now are quite familiar to you. We're going to be talking about the various types of sports products, which could include everything from equipment to clothing to tickets to entertainment. So the product side of it. We're going to be talking about pricing strategies with respect to sports and how some sports um, are more accessible than others to the average consumer as a participant. Some sports are becoming, there's a growing criticism that some professional sports are becoming inaccessible in a live context to a lot of its fans because their ticket pricing is just so astronomical. So we're going to talk about pricing. We're going to talk a lot about promotion and sort of the role of social media and other kinds of promotional strategies and how those are used in sports. And we'll talk about play strategies. So this idea that we experience sports in person by attending a sporting event, by participating in a sporting event, by watching on television or on our computer or on our cell phone, so we can engage in sports in a wide variety of ways. And we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about using sports as a vehicle for marketing other non-sports related items. So sometimes when we talk about sports marketing, we're talking about marketing sports and all of the sort of different components that make up the sports sector. But also we're going to talk about marketing using sports as a vehicle for marketing other items. So, you may have seen LeBron James in the past has done TV commercials for McDonald's, for example. So McDonald's would not be considered a sports organization or a sports company, but they're clearly trying to connect with their target audience by using someone like a LeBron James, who's very much associated with sports, in particular basketball, and trying to make those connections. So using sports as a vehicle to market other kinds of products and services. So we're going to talk about that as well. So what are the kinds of things that we're going to cover in this course, at least in the first half? The second half is really going to be quite different when we delve into the special topics, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But we're going to talk about sports as an industry and all of the various subsectors of that industry, and it's actually really quite broad and quite varied. We are going to talk about sports as a vehicle, as I just mentioned, for marketing other kinds of products and services. We'll talk about sports marketing as a career and the really broad and wide assortment of different kinds of career opportunities might be a good fit for somebody who has an educational background in sports marketing. I suspect some of you sort of in the back of your mind are thinking again of, being the head of marketing for a professional sports organization or a sports team. And certainly that represents an opportunity, but there's also all kinds of opportunities in your community, in other contexts, and we're going to go over what some of those careers might look like. We'll talk about some of the business opportunities and where the growth is in the sports sector, because some areas are growing at a much faster pace, and some specific sports are growing faster than others. But things like sports technology, sports betting, or gambling, and certain sports are really growing quite exponentially, while others are actually, even though they're very large and very significant players in the field, their growth is really slowing down, and we're going to look at some of the reasons why and what the people in those particular sports areas can do to ensure that they're continuing to grow their sport and their league or whatever it is we're talking about. We're going to talk about sports as a means of engaging customers. If if you've ever met a big sports fan, and I'm sure many of you have, if you're not a sports fan yourself, um, most of us have, our favorite team or our favorite player or athlete. Or whenever I ask students in my introductory marketing class, so intro, the 1410 marketing class, I always ask them in the introductory thread to introduce themselves to me and to tell me their favorite brand. And hands down, every single year, by a wide margin, the most popular answer is always Nike. Students historically have loved that brand. They feel very strongly about that brand. And in part because Nike's done a really good job of engaging and connecting in a meaningful way with their customers. Rabid sports fans, people who are just ardent fans of a particular team, they're a really unique kind of consumer. And it's really important to understand um, that mindset and how that differs from just an average typical consumer in other sectors that maybe doesn't have that kind of strong sort of personal identification uh, between themselves and a brand, which could be a sports team or an athlete. And of course, we're going to cover other topics as well throughout this course. So if we were living in a non-COVID world, which unfortunately we are not, I would start the first lecture by asking you, why does this course interest you? Why did you sign up for a course in sports marketing? But I suspect for many of you, certainly not all of you, I wouldn't be that presumptuous, but based on my past experience, I suspect a lot of you, were interested in this course because many of you are athletes, either current or former, and so a course in sports marketing is an opportunity for you to sort of take a major part of your sense of self and your self-identity and connect it to a university course. Some of you may not be athletes, but maybe you're sports fans across a wide array of different sports. When I taught this course last year, what was really funny is of the 6 students, 4 of them were absolutely diehard Montreal Canadiens fans, and then 2 of them were Toronto Maple Leaf fans, like diehard. And so that really created a really sort of a fun dynamic in the class. But actually, several of the students, in addition to being big hockey fans, they were also, one of them was an avid fly fisherman, and was really super into doing that. Last year we did a project in that class on pickleball, and I took all 6 of them to play pickleball, and all 6 of them absolutely had a blast and went back and ended up playing pickleball on a semi-regular basis. So you may be a sports fan. Not necessarily somebody who's actively involved in playing the sport, but are a fan from an observer perspective. Some people are just interested in fitness and wellness, and that certainly falls into this whole broad area of sports marketing as well. And that really opens a whole other avenue of topics to include. So the general public, even before COVID, but certainly because of COVID, we're much more aware of how important our health and wellness is, and we're engaging more in investing in our own health and wellness. And there's all kinds of opportunities for us to do that. And so thinking of things like apps or programs you can join, or special there's all kinds of books and all kinds of products that fit into this overall theme of fitness and wellness or overall health, and that falls into sports marketing as well. And some of you may be interested in that. It could include things like supplements. It could include, mental health and wellness. Some of us are part of the sports community, so I don't consider myself an athlete at all, even though I'm learning how to play tennis. I certainly am not good at it, and I don't even consider myself a sports fan. If I never saw another sporting event in my life, I'd be quite happy. But I am part of the sports community and have been for the past probably 16 years. And I know it's part of my family's life. And it could be of interest to you because you're part of the sports community in the broader sense. It may be of interest to you just because you see the growing relevance of sports from a business and opportunity perspective. There's some real areas and opportunities for growth in businesses or organizations that are tied to, in the broadest sense, this sports sector. And there may be other reasons, and hopefully through once we get to start to have some conversations or even getting together in person, we'll be able to flesh out exactly what it is about this course that is of interest to you. I suspect, though, I hit on some of the major themes. So again, over the next few weeks, we are going to scope out what we mean when we say sports. It's significantly broader than I suspect many of you think it's going to be. We're going to contextualize the size of the sports industry by quantifying the dollars involved, the number of people involved, that sort of thing, to sort of help you get a sense of the scope of what we're talking about. We're going to examine timely and controversial topics directly related to sports and marketing. Some of them we'll do in the lectures. Others we will talk about in the special topics, which are coming up after the break. But we'll also do this through our discussion questions and through the bonus questions, which will all be sort of timely things that are in the news. Because this is a very timely topic. There's lots of things going on in the sports world that are relevant from a marketing perspective. And hopefully we're going to get to have some fun while we're at it. I'm really hoping we're back in person soon because I want to go and have a tennis lesson with all of us so that you get to meet our tennis partners from Tennis PEI. I just hope we get to have that in-class experience because the special topics that we do, it will be so much fun if we can do it together in the same room because the topics that we're going to be covering are quite controversial. They are when we covered some of them last year, it led to a considerable amount of debate, and I would argue personal growth as people challenged their preconceptions or their ideas of what should or shouldn't be happening or what role sports should be taking in a particular issue. We ended up having some really, really good conversations that were quite lively, and really all 6 of the students, I was really impressed by their sort of willingness to open their mind and consider various perspectives, because none of the topics that we are going to be covering is a neat little this is right and this is wrong. It's controversial, and that's going to be where the fun lies. So just before we finish up, I just wanted to mention a couple of things about the discussion questions and the bonus questions. The discussion questions are all set up. If you go to our Moodle page, you will see them. They're all there. And for those of you who haven't had a class with me maybe in the last year and a half or so, or even if you have, this is a refresher. The discussion questions are set up or formatted in a quiz format, and that shouldn't have any bearing or impact on you whatsoever. The only reason they're set up that way is so that when I go to grade them, it makes it easier for me to grade them in groups. So for example, I can actually sort if it's in a quiz format, I can sort on Moodle all the responses to the first discussion question, and grade those all together so I can be more consistent. And then I can move on to the second discussion question in that set and grade all of those together. And so it really is done more from an administrative perspective. The quizzes, even though they're not quizzes, they're discussion questions, are set up so that you should be able to go in and out of those discussion questions as often as you want and make changes to your responses as often as you want up until the due date. Now that's how I believe they're set up. That's how I intended them to be set up, but I am not somebody who has a lot of faith and trust in Moodle. So what I've also done is I've posted in a Word document all of the discussion questions, and they're in sets. There are like 2 or 3 questions per set of discussion questions. And so I posted them in a Word document on our Moodle page so that if you would like, you can actually prepare your responses to the discussion questions offline in a Google document or in a Word document. And then whenever you're happy that you're happy with your response, you've done all the editing you need to do, then you can simply copy and paste your answers into the quiz on Moodle so that you can then submit your answers. You can't submit an attachment. You're going to have to copy and paste your answers into the text box for each of the discussion questions. But it does, if you're a little bit nervous that you're going to start your discussion questions and then you're going to leave and you won't be able to come back and revise or add to them, you can just do them offline, and then whenever you're ready, obviously before the due date, you'll copy and paste your full response into those discussion questions. If this is not clear to you, please reach out to me and I'll try to walk you through it. But again, I would recommend, what I would be doing is, developing your responses to the discussion questions offline using the handout that's up on Moodle that will tell you exactly what questions are on each of the sets of discussion questions. I hope that's clear. I hope you get what I'm saying there. If you took a course from me last semester or during the year before, it's exactly how the discussion questions have been set up all along. So it should be familiar to you. But please reach out to me if that's confusing. In addition, I'll also be posting some bonus questions on our Moodle page. There's one actually posted there now. It closes this coming Sunday, the 16th. And basically, this is just an opportunity for us as a class to discuss and debate some timely and controversial topics in the world of sports marketing. So if you haven't already done so, you should check out the bonus question that's there. I have another bonus question that's set to open on Monday that's also pretty timely. It may require you to keep up to date with what's going on in the news, because if you're not keeping up on the news, these things may not make sense to you. So you may have to do a little bit of investigating, whether it's on Twitter or in various news outlets, to familiarize yourself with the controversy or the issue, because these are all based on current events. And so I hope you don't have to do them. They're completely optional. And it's just a chance for you to earn some bonus marks if you'd like. So that's it for now. Please reach out to me if you have any questions. I'm really hoping we're back in the classroom sooner rather than later. And I'll be recording the next couple of themed lectures over the next few days. Our next live session, I'll send this out in an email, but our next live session is on Tuesday the 18th, and we'll be going over how to do the lit review paper and the book report. And so I would encourage you to be online for that class. Anyway, thank you. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope the snowstorm isn't too bad, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks.